for the info audella vaikka pedofiliin ja on psykological
Hey everyone! On this episode of Noon, I'm excited to introduce you to Anna, an extraordinary individual whose journey has taken intriguing twists. Anna's career began with a leap of faith as she entered the world of nursing with no previous experience and quickly fell in love with it. Her passion for nursing, particularly in the emergency department, has defined her professional path. But that's not all. In a recent exciting development, Anna has ventured into the world of entrepreneurship. She's opened the very first Jamba Juice franchise in Albuquerque. Join us for a captivating conversation as Anna shares her experiences and the profound shift from nursing to entrepreneurship. This episode promises to provide insights into the world of healthcare and the challenges and triumphs of business ownership. Let's get started. All right, Anna, thank you so much for joining us on the Noon podcast today. How are you doing?
I'm good, Sam. How you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. I'm super honored that you're on with us today. I worked with you for a little bit not too long ago, and you're an amazing nurse. I had so much fun hanging out with you in the ER. I'd love to introduce you to the fans here. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say, thank you so much for having me. I'm just honestly very honored to be here, and I'm excited for this episode.
Awesome. How about you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So my name's Anna. I've been a nurse for 9 years now. I can't believe it's been that long. Growing up, I never had any aspirations to be a nurse. All I knew was that I wanted to get out of New Mexico after high school, and I wanted to play basketball. Those were my two main goals. And so life took me to Arkansas. I got my undergrad degree there. I had the time of my life, played some ball, made some really good friends. But then got done with my bachelor's and really didn't know what to do. Had the opportunity to go to nursing school basically for free. And so I jumped on that and kind of got into the profession, honestly, just because nursing it's a good career. I didn't have the passion at the time, but started working and figured out early on that it was something that I really loved. And I started out doing some step down nursing, some longer term care. And then in year 3, I transitioned to the ER. My first job was actually at St. Joe's in Denver. Did that for a little while and then came back to Albuquerque and worked for the last 6 years there. I say that I'm kind of in retirement right now, only because I have an 11-month-old son, and so I've been staying home with him and pursuing some other jobs right now. So nursing's just on hold temporarily, but definitely had a few really good years.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And do you mind if I ask how you got the opportunity to have nursing for free? You said you got into nursing school, it was kind of for free?
Yeah. So my dad was actually, he was a director of a nursing program at the time. So it was very, very convenient.
That is convenient.
Yeah.
And when you got into nursing school, right? Because it sounds like you had no patient contact or anything prior to that. How did you feel about coming in and touching strangers and doing, some of these procedures that we do?
I kind of, during nursing school, I thought I was going to struggle with it. But as soon as I got in the clinicals, man, I was the most gung-ho. I was like, if you got a dig stim, I'll do it, whatever. I wanted to do it all, man. I was just so happy to be there and be with the patients, and that part didn't bother me at all, to be honest.
No, I mean, sometimes some of the stuff we do still kind of bothers me. Maybe it's just the situations and it depends on if the patient's bathed or not. Yeah, some of the Foleys that we've done are really gross.
Yes, for sure. There's still, obviously there's still things that will get to me, but I guess doing that transition was a lot better than I initially thought it was going to be.
It's not for some people. I mean, how many people go through med school and then come out and decide that they don't want to do that because of the stuff that we see and do and smell? And
oh, for sure. The amount of people who have gone through nursing school and then realize that's not really what they wanted to do. I definitely know a handful of people like that.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you weren't one of those people and you were able to stick with it and actually enjoyed it. It sounds like you enjoyed it quite a lot.
Yeah, what's interesting is when I first started my nursing career, I was always looking at how can I be better? Oh, I just want more experience. I want to be that seasoned nurse and just really never thought I was good enough. But looking back on it now, like some of those first years were I was the best nurse at that time because I wasn't burnt out. I, just had so much passion for what I was doing and I was really giving giving myself to the patients more so than I think I had been in the last couple of years after the burnout kind of set in a little bit.
And how many years do you think it took you to hit that burnout phase?
That's a really good question. Um, I would say year probably year 6 or 7. I definitely became hardened, and I don't know if that was a combination of just the number of years worked or the place I was working or the management or maybe a combination of everything and things happening in my personal life and the world. I can't really pinpoint exactly kind of what started that, but I'd say it's around, yeah, year 6 or 7.
So I know you say you can't pinpoint like what may have caused that burnout, but what made you realize that you were burned out?
I like that question. I think I had somewhat of a realization of that, like while I was actually working. But to me, actually, when I was in the hospital giving birth to my son, and I had the most angelic nurse as my L&D nurse, and she was
Uh-huh.
so tentative, so caring, so good at her job. And I realized at that moment, I was like, wow, I've been so burnt out. And I didn't even really realize the extent until I had that like amazing experience with that nurse. And it kind of changed everything for me because I realized that I needed to get in a better headspace or maybe even transition to a different part of nursing like when I decide to go back. Because I don't want to be that crusty nurse,
Yeah.
I want to treat people the way that I was treated in L&D, and I will forever remember her because she really kind of put the light bulb on in my head of needing to get in a better headspace.
It's really funny that you talk about that because me and my partner transported a patient to one of the L&D units not that long ago. And both of our experiences have been very similar, where a lot of the L&D nurses are just like loving life, right? They love what they do, they love where they're
Yeah,
at, they love everything. And in this one transport, the main nurse that came in for the patient that we were bringing in was just so like I wouldn't say it was crusty, but she definitely wasn't happy. And
yeah.
we talked about it afterwards. My partner and I were like, what is going on? Like, this must have been an off day for that nurse because it's not our typical experience when we're up there. So it's really funny that you brought it up. I think that some nursing, yeah, I think that some nursing, and coming from a paramedic's perspective, and I won't lie, watching some Grey's Anatomy has has kind of thrown out that some nursing experiences are better, right? Like I feel like there's high competition for positions like L&D, and then maybe some more of the more relaxed positions. I'm brain farting right now what the other one I'm thinking of is, where they like a dermatology clinic. I
Like
feel like that
aesthetics
would
or
be,
something.
yeah, like super just relaxed. Is that anything that you have any interest in going towards once you're done with your mini retirement?
My sabbatical, as you will.
Mm-hmm.
I, I don't think so. I mean, you can understand this. I think there's a part of me that will always kind of want that chaos to a certain extent. And, I think L&D can have a little bit of chaos in there as well. I don't know if I'll go in that direction either, but I can't see myself doing anything. I don't even want to say boring, but more relaxed. I just think that it just wouldn't be for me long term. I think that the ER will call me back eventually, and I will take that call gladly.
And you mean not the managers calling you, begging you to come back, but you as you're calling in the ER.
Yes, and all my wonderful coworkers out there, man. That's honestly what makes the job like so awesome. Shout out to all those ER nurses out there.
No, for sure. The ER, trauma, all those first first response nurses that show up, when everybody else is running away. It does take a special personality.
For sure. I always tell people too, it's like what I love about the ER is also interacting with EMS. I love that part of it. I love getting to know everyone, just like always that transition from receiving a patient to getting them comfortable in our ER. I think that was probably my favorite part of being in the ER, to be honest.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts, right? It's very dynamic. So you are seeing a lot of those. You're seeing the first responders, and then you're seeing a lot of people that are transporting the patients from maybe the ER to go upstairs, or you're seeing, um, all the lab people, all the X-ray technicians, all the CT technicians, all of the different doctors that are coming down, maybe neuro, or it is a very dynamic place in the ER to see everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of fun. So we talked a little bit about how you're on a sabbatical. So did that start did that start with the birth of your baby?
So it's kind of interesting. While I was working, I also was getting my master's degree, and I actually have my master's in acupuncture and Chinese herbal medicine. And so, kind of while I was working, I've had this other career path in mind, and part of what I'm doing right now too is studying for boards. So, one of my goals as well is to get certified and kind of pursue that goal as well within medicine. Just definitely a different aspect of it. So, that's kind of an end goal for me. But I think basically when I was pregnant, I stopped at 38 weeks. And then, I envisioned myself after the 3 months going back to the ER, but it was kind of a game time decision where we just realized it would be best for me to stay and to keep studying for boards. And then most importantly, just to give Theo just that nurturing and care that's so important during the first year.
Yeah, no, that is really important, and I feel like that is a strong movement that's happening everywhere. I think that a lot of people are moving towards that. And I think that, as odd as it sounds, I think that COVID helped people realize that they can enjoy their time off a little more, than they were before, and that we aren't machines, and we should be taking more time off to enjoy ourselves and our family and our home lives.
That's so true. And honestly, COVID kind of forced me to be more comfortable at home. I think for a long time I just tried to stay as busy as possible and didn't really enjoy being at home, and that whole situation kind of forced me to be okay with being at home. And now having Theo, he's really made being at home a lot better of a place for sure.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. And while you've been home, you've also started another new venture and opened a small business. What business was that?
So my husband and I opened the first ever Jamba Juice in New Mexico. It's a franchise, but it is locally owned and operated. And actually, our location is family operated. And we sell smoothies, bowls, baked goods. We have a lot of products that are very healthy, and then we have more of dessert smoothies as well. So definitely have a little bit of everything.
Yeah, no, I went last week, and we grabbed a couple of smoothies just to check it out because I had never been to a Jamba Juice before, and it was really, really good. And I was very impressed with the customer service that day.
That's awesome.
It sounds like you've got a strong team together right now, which is really, really good. Do you want to share? You have a coupon code out there, right, for your EMS family? Is that correct?
Yeah, so we offer 20% perpetually for first responders. So that includes EMS, fire, police, military, um, active military, and veterans. And then we also offer 20% for nurses as well. So we really just, we wanted the business to be kind of oriented to the community. And with my background in healthcare, we just thought it was really important to recognize the folks out there serving. So, yeah, basically, when you go into the store, if you have a badge or a uniform, then we'll gladly give you 20% off.
That's fantastic. Thank you for doing that. It's a huge benefit to those that are, especially if you're out on in the ambulance and working, so you can swing by and hopefully grab something in between calls.
Yeah, I mean, we'd love to see you. Honestly, I miss seeing that whole community. So we would love for everyone to come by.
Heck yeah. So what made you decide to open a Jamba Juice specifically?
So my husband, I mean, I give my husband the credit for this. He's very entrepreneurial mindset, and he really kind of just wants to escape the 9 to 5 grind. He's a mechanical engineer, and he ends up doing most of his work on the computer, and he's very active, and just wanted a business where he can be the boss essentially. But basically what inspired this whole thing was we were traveling, and we had Jamba, and I think it was the Vegas airport, and I was like, this is absolutely delicious, like why don't we have one of these in Albuquerque? And we kind of just looked at the products available here, and there's just, in my opinion, nothing that is was as good as Jamba, and I feel like we just have a great market for it. And so, it was trying the product that opened our eyes to it, and then we started looking into the specifics of it and running a business and the franchise fees and everything that goes into it, and it kind of just it evolved from there. And it's been a process. We were actually supposed to open a year ago, but based a lot of delays in city permits and construction. We did the build out completely from scratch, so that took a lot longer than we thought, and was a huge bummer. But we're just so happy to finally be open now, and we have plans on opening 3 stores here within a 3-year time period. So that's our first store at the Windrock Center, and then we're going to have 2 others here shortly as well, hopefully covering a bigger demographic.
Wow, that's impressive and a lot of work.
Yeah, definitely. It's been a
Yeah.
lot of work.
Yeah, I'm sure. I can't believe you're planning on opening 2 more stores within 2 more years. That's crazy, dude.
Yeah, and I think honestly though, I think we've gotten the hard part out of the way because we've done the first one, and now we know what not to do. We know what's been successful and what hasn't been, and we have a really solid contractor now. So we're hoping the other ones go, on the right time frame and a little bit smoother than the first one.
Sure. And where is the first one located at?
So it's in the Windrock Town Center. It's in between Burger 21 and Firehouse Subs. They're totally revamping that whole area. Windrock is going to be a really cool place to be. Hopefully they'll be done with all of that construction within the next 2 years.
Yeah, that'll be cool. I know they are doing a lot of construction over in that area, but I think you've nestled yourself into a good little space, and hopefully that business will be good for you here in the next few years and be fruitful for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So, in your 9 years of nursing, which is quite a long time, by the way, not, and maybe not as long as other people, but still pretty solid for somebody who's never had any experience um, at all prior to that schooling. What what would you say had been maybe one of your craziest patients or craziest events that you'd had in your time?
Yeah, that's a great question. So basically, the last place that I worked at, we had a fairly larger ER, and then we had a sister ER that's much smaller. It's only an 8-bed ER and is typically staffed just 1 doctor and 2 nurses. And that ER can be very slow. We can, sometimes only have 1 or 2 patients, but then sometimes we end up in situations where we have hall beds, and it can get very chaotic there. So there was one time where we were very busy and we had very critical patients, and I was actually giving TPA to a stroke patient, and that's always, a one-on-one. But we had a patient at the same time walk in And my coworker at the time, the other nurse I was working with, great guy, he was walking him down the hall, and all of a sudden he just collapsed basically in my coworker's arms. And so, of course, he yelled for help. We got him on a gurney, felt pulses. He no pulses. We got him to a room as quickly as we could and started CPR right away, of course, and pulled the code button, but there for a couple, I mean, it felt like minutes. For a good amount of time, it was just the ER doctor, myself, and my coworker coding this patient. And the ER doctor made a call very early on it was a shockable rhythm. So we shocked the patient, and then he made the call of, delivering more electricity very soon afterward. And actually that second shock, you know, the patient, we revived him essentially. And within probably 5 or 6 minutes after that, the patient actually became lucid again, and was conversational. And, that to me was incredible to see, because most of the time when someone codes, we ship them off to ICU, and you may hear about how they're doing from someone else, but very rarely you ever really interact with them again. And, a lot of times they don't make it, or they're brain dead essentially.
Right, because a lot of the time when you're getting them, they're already coding from the field, right? You don't
Exactly.
actually witness the codes very often, which is pretty cool.
And it was really cool to see how powerful early intervention is, because we started CPR immediately, we shocked immediately, and it was very, very successful.
Yeah, and you said that he had shocked twice. It sounds like very close. Was it like stack shocking, or was it like 1 minute in between ish?
It was probably about 30 seconds to a minute in between. Made the call just to go ahead and deliver more before the next pulse check. So
Yeah, sometimes that's what the heart needs, right? Get it started over.
yeah, definitely. So there's that ER is the wild wild west, and I feel like there's been multiple stories like that, and a lot of action.
Right, because a lot of the time that ER doesn't even have a tech, right? So it literally is just you, another nurse, and a doctor.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I know, at least when I was working there, it's been about a year now. We were never staffed with a tech. It was only two nurses and a doctor. And of course, a lot of times if we had staffing available and it got busy, they would send help over, but it's always very situational.
Right, and when you say that the help was getting sent over, it's because the hospital was a block away from the other ER. So you actually had to have people either riding in the security truck or running over from the other ER to help you.
Running or scooters. I mean, they used to have scooters down there, and then they took those away. Those were pretty clutch, but
I didn't know they ever had scooters. That's hilarious.
you never participated in the Albuquerque scooters, man. That was like the
No,
best part of work there for a while.
just scooting back and forth in between.
Oh yeah.
Uh, that's hilarious. Yeah, I wasn't there when they had scooters. They either had security give you a ride, or your ass was running across the street to the other ER.
I mean, if I knew a job was offering scooter breaks, I mean, I would definitely be more interested.
That would be a plus.
Oh, 100%.
I'll take that. Hey, do you have scooters? I'll take it. That's fantastic, dude. That's so funny. Oh man, it was like a wild west out there though, for real.
I've had people describe, our trauma hospital as being like Walmart, right? Like, for the most part, things are very efficient. There's more staff, like you have more availability in general. And then they describe my hospital I worked at as more of like a mom and pop, and I kind of like that analogy.
Yeah, no, that is a great description for that ER. That's fantastic. Did you have any other like super crazy calls out of there, or patients?
Yeah, there's another one that comes to mind as well. It was end of shift. I think we were actually in the middle of shift change, and that hospital has, like, day patient nurses, and one of them kind of just came in and, came over to us, just strutted over and was like, there's a patient that's unresponsive in the car in the parking lot. And I was like, okay, well, does he have a pulse? And she said, I don't know. And so I sprinted out there, and it was the passenger seat. And this patient definitely was passed out. Pretty soon, realized he did not have pulses. So we pulled him out of the car, and luckily someone was behind me with a gurney. So we flopped him onto the gurney. I started compressions, but I was running kind of like next to the gurney, and of course I tripped because I'm just a big klutz. And so I had my Grey's Anatomy moment where I just was like, okay, we're going full rodeo here. I hopped on the patient, straddled him, started my compressions that way. And they rolled us, into the entry of the ER. And the most hilarious part was my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, was there to pick me up. And he was in the lobby, so he was witness to all this happening, and he basically, just saw me straddling this patient, passing right by him. So, we got that patient as stable as we could, and then, I was able to go home after that. But that was a kind of a hilarious moment.
Yeah, what did he say about it?
I think he was basically in shock, and then also told me, he's like, well, I'm probably going to be here for a while now, waiting for you.
So he was like, he just knew there was going to be a huge delay in you getting to go home.
Yeah, essentially. But I think it was good. It gives him a little bit more perspective on, obviously most days are not like that, but gives him a little more perspective on what exactly we do. And over the years, like having a partner that is not in healthcare, and you come home and you tell the stories to, and soon they start to recognize a lot of the lingo that we use, and it's kind of impressive to see the evolution of what they understand as well.
Yeah, no, it really is impressive. I've been with my wife for, we're going on 20 years now, and
That's amazing.
she'll crack up at some of the stuff that I say, but for the most part, she understands what I'm saying when I'm saying it. And if I have to stay late, she's like, it must be a critical patient. Yep, it is a critical patient.
I love that. Love that. Yeah, I mean, you have to have it. It's so nice, like, even if they don't completely understand, just like having that support.
Yeah. No, it is. It's nice, and I've talked about it a little bit. And it's nice that you have that same experience too. It's nice having a partner who's not in the medical field, right? Because when you get home, you don't necessarily want to talk about it anymore. You just want to be at home and relax in a regular environment where there's no beeping and there's nobody talking
Yes.
medical jargon.
Yeah, for sure.
What does he think about, or what did he think about the schedule for when you're in the ER?
He was fine with it. He's like, Chris is like the most chill, like kind of laid back, like very understanding person. So I've just felt really blessed to have someone like that who is just very go with the flow.
That's awesome. It's super nice too. I think for me, having my wife Sam, where when I'm having a bad day, I can come home and I can de-stress with her, and she might not understand all of the things that I'm talking about, but I think it makes it a little easier that way.
Oh, for sure. What does she do?
Right now she is retired.
Oh, she's in her sabbatical as well.
Yeah, it's been a very long sabbatical, but yes. No,
I can relate.
she does a lot of stuff for the podcast. She does a lot of side support for me, which is really awesome. I can't complain. We had the opportunity for her to quit her job several years ago. We have the financial means for it, and we've continued to have the financial means for it, and it's been nice because we're not competing for schedules. If we want to pick up and leave, we can just leave whenever. It's very convenient.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So you said that you recognized burnout. Did you do any type of treatment, or was there anything that you did while you were working in the ER to kind of help with your burnout a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, most definitely. For me, like I've always been very active and love to exercise in sports. And so, you know, exercising for me is number one. Like if I didn't have that, I would definitely be a crazy person. But part of the reason I went to acupuncture school is because I really wanted to obviously help other people, but work on myself as well. And just doing some of those modalities as well has helped me tremendously. And so I think that definitely do those two things combined, the acupuncture and the exercise, definitely got me through that.
So forgive me because I don't know a whole lot about acupuncture. Is that something that you just do on yourself, or do you go and have somebody else do that for you?
So being in school, I a lot of times I would do acupuncture on myself, but you know, New Mexico has very strict licensure here, and so you cannot do acupuncture unless you're an MD or you have a doctor of Oriental medicine. And so you have to go to someone else to receive acupuncture, unless you're in school, of course. Then you can do it on yourself. But there's a lot of very simple things that I could do without having to go to someone else.
Oh,
Like when you're in school for anything, you basically become your own guinea pig and try out a
yes.
lot of this stuff on yourself, and the herbal portion as well.
So what's your number one de-stressor tool?
I don't know. I'd still say exercise for me. I'm just built that way. Just like having a physical outlet for sure is so important.
Do you work out at a gym or do you work out at home?
Yeah, I actually I go to this gym called Revolutionary Fitness. I've gone there for shoot a long time, at least 7 years. He had a location over on Paseo, but he actually has a gym now out of his house in Corrales. So we still go a couple times a week, and we're able to bring Theo, and he has kids as well. So it's just a really cool environment. So being able to continue doing that, like having a son now, is also been super helpful because being a mom is very stressful as well. So you have to have a lot of those same tools in order to get through it.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's good to have the tools that you need to continue on through your days without kind of losing your shit sometimes.
Yes.
So out of all the years, do you have any particular cases or patients that just almost broke you or made you upset or really sad?
Yeah, I do want to just kind of piggyback on what one of your other when you were interviewing Maya and on one of your episodes, and what she was saying about how a lot of times the most difficult cases are those of people who have had chronic conditions and who are living, with these debilitating illnesses or conditions, and they tend to be repeat patients to the ER, and nothing's really helping them. They're not getting better. There are a lot of times they're in situations where they don't even have autonomy, and so it's other people making decisions for them, and those are just really the hardest to see. And it reminds me of one patient that I had in the ER, and she came in, and it was a stroke alert, but she was outside of our TPA window, and so there wasn't really much we could offer her at all. But she had some hemiplegia going on. She could definitely still comprehend what was going on, but some massive aphasia as well. But for some reason, I just vibed with her. I liked her a lot. I could tell she was a very loving, compassionate person. I liked her. I was drawn to her. We all have those patients, right, that we just resonate with. And I felt so bad for her because within, I think it had only been maybe a little over, maybe a little under 24 hours, she, had this stroke, and now is probably going to be left with these debilitating conditions. And the worst part is she didn't have an emergency contact. There was no one we could call. She didn't have any family in the area. And so here she was, like realizing that her life would probably never be the same, and there was no one we could even contact for support. And you just never know with the stroke patients. I mean, I've heard of people making amazing recoveries, and they're able to, use their arms and legs again. But then you see the ones where they're 20 years later and they're still suffering the effects of that one day. And I think sometimes trauma can happen within a matter of seconds, but the amount of time it takes to heal from things can be years, months, even a lifetime sometimes. And so just like definitely overthinking about her and thinking about how life would be for her, and that one just really got to me. The lack of support, I think, more than anything.
Yeah, no, that is rough when we see those patients that come in and it's probably going to be a life-changing event. And I really like that you said, trauma can happen in a matter of seconds, but the healing time takes years, because that can be told or used for physical trauma or mental trauma, right? I mean, look at, you're talking
100%.
about it now, and that was something that affected you a few years ago, and it's still something you can tell that you still think about it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think anyone who's worked in healthcare, has those patients, and we're all affected by it. I mean, we're all connected, and um yeah, I think we definitely carry that with us.
Yeah, it's sad, especially the ones that don't have the family that are close by, or if you don't have any way to contact anybody that they know, or maybe they just don't have anybody.
Yeah. There's a lot of people who don't have any support, and it's so sad.
It is sad. It is, and it's crazy to think about. And it's easy in the ER or in EMS, where you're only, more so for EMS than for people in the ER. But you get to send I get to turn over care after 30 minutes with this patient, where you might be seeing this patient for, depending on how sick they are, and if you have any beds upstairs, you might be seeing this patient for maybe 1 or a couple hours, and then you're also sending that patient off. And we're just expected to forget it and move on, right? Keep doing your job. There's
Exactly.
somebody else to fill that bed once that person's gone. You have another patient to go pick up and somewhere else.
Yep. And yeah, I mean, it's definitely a heavy burden sometimes.
I know in the ER that you were working at, it's not much of a trauma facility, but did you ever have any trauma patients that rolled in?
Yes. I mean, we always had those homie drop-offs.
Homie drop offs, yep.
Um, gotta love those. So, we had, for the 6 years I was working there, there was only a handful of GSWs, some stab wounds, some, I fell off a ladder and then waited 12 hours to come in, people
Yeah.
working with their power tools, like all that stuff. Like you said, we were in a trauma hospital, but I think if you worked in the ER long enough, like you're going to experience that at some point.
Yes. One of the ones that I transported from there to the trauma center was
Oh no. Oh no.
I think this was before your time,
Okay.
from being there, but it was a young lady who got upset at her boyfriend, and I guess, I don't know if he was threatening to leave or what, but she decided to go out and stab his tires.
Oh
And
man.
when she unclipped the knife, I don't think she locked it. So when she stabbed the tire, the knife actually buckled, and it cut off the majority of her pinky finger and then part of her ring finger.
Yikes.
So I don't know why at the time, like, I mean, I guess maybe they could have reattached the fingers so we transported it, but she'd been there for like several hours. So likely she was just getting transported because she was labeled as a trauma patient. You know what I mean? But I don't think there was anything they could do for her. But that was quite the interesting. She was definitely a character.
Did you ever have any hot messes that you transported out of my ball and chain hospital elsewhere?
Oh man, I'm sure we did, but I can't think of any right now. Uh, the little ER. Most of the transfers I remember came out of the big one. But we transported a lot of like STEMIs, and before they
Right.
had a really big neuro, we were transporting a lot of the neuro patients as well. So do you have any that were like, I don't know, sometimes you just feel bad for those ones, but do you have any like embarrassing stories or times where you got kind of knocked on your ass and put in your place?
Yeah, I mean, I think starting like as an ER nurse in general, like you just are constantly, at least for me, it's like I think the first year I worked in ER, I was like nervous every single day before I'd go to my job just because it's like you're working with some interesting people and it can be cutthroat and it's just a whole different environment until you work there. It's like you don't really you don't really understand. But I remember there's this doctor that at the ball and chain hospital, and this is when I first started, and he was so smart, and like everyone respected him, and of course, like I can be a people pleaser, and I like really wanted him to like me, and I just feel like every time I would work with him, I would do something dumb or the thing I remember the most working with him is, there at that hospital, we did have a lot of autonomy as far as like putting in orders and stuff. And I think that I maybe overstepped my kind of my scope maybe and put in a blood test I shouldn't have with him. And he was very particular about that and like called me out in front of everyone. And there wasn't anything like big, huge that ended up hurting anyone, but it was just like the kind of like those little like, those little digs that can really get to you when you first start somewhere. And then I think that the longer you're in that environment, the more you kind of just start letting things go to a certain extent, or maybe it's just becoming more hardened. I'm not sure, but I definitely look back at that time and it's like the amount you evolve as a nurse for sure, but also as a person as well. I feel like a lot of the experiences I had in the hospital definitely, like, no doubt transferred over to my own personal life.
Sure. Yeah, no, I mean, especially as a new nurse, you're developing a lot of your skills, right? When you're going into the ER or whatever setting that you're going into initially, but you're growing personally, and then you're also developing your advocacy skills, right? Because it sounds like when you talk about the lab that you say that you kind of stepped over and the doctor kind of called you out, it sounds like maybe that should have been a discussion instead of him kind of proving his point. You felt the need to put in a lab that you felt wasn't being addressed, and maybe as a new nurse you didn't understand maybe what that lab was needed for or necessary for, or maybe he was covering it, but you were advocating for that patient,
Right.
and you shouldn't have gotten called out for that.
Yeah, I would agree. I think there's a little bit too much of that. I mean, there's some really amazing doctors that we work with, and then there's only a handful of that just don't handle those situations very well.
Yep. there, there's one in
Are you
particular I
thinking
can.
back? Yeah.
Yeah. There's one
Go
in
ahead. I want to
particular
hear this.
there that was, he didn't deal with things very well at all. I mean, when you have a hip or a knee dislocation and you're waiting for a bed and he doesn't want to get x-rays before he tries to put it back into place, there's issues with that. So
Oh
he's
man, that
yeah,
actually
he came out and
that
tried to do a
oh
reduction with our patient on the stretcher in the middle of the hallway instead of waiting, because he thought, well, he can
oh
just get her
no.
out in 15 minutes. Yeah, and it ended up being much more complicated than that.
That actually reminds me though of this ER doctor that I used to work with, and he was a hilarious guy. Like loved working with him, but he was all over the place and like didn't know what he was doing sometimes. And it was a shoulder reduction, and we were probably 5-10 minutes out from doing it. And I look over his shoulder, and he's looking up YouTube videos on how to reduce a shoulder.
I mean, I can't. I can't fault somebody for looking up YouTube videos. I'm just saying, like, most of the time before I'm going on calls, I'm looking at my guidelines. And then if I think that I'm going to be doing a procedure that I maybe haven't done in a while, I might look up techniques. So I can't fault the guy. I mean, if he's doing it in the patient's room, maybe you shouldn't be doing it in the patient's room.
No, no doubt. I 100% agree. Like I think it's best to look at your resources. I think it was just like the quality of the YouTube video where it was like I don't even it was like it was on a dummy and it looked like it was from like the 1990s. Like it just it was something else.
No, that's pretty good. I working at one of the bigger ERs here, you definitely see a lot of the doctors looking up YouTube videos at the desk, usually. I don't think anything's wrong with that. I really the
Yeah.
practice of having everything memorized is just so far it
Yes.
should be gone. You know what I mean? We shouldn't be
Yes, I do like that.
yeah, we shouldn't be expecting our providers to have everything memorized, because when you think you have something memorized and you accidentally mess up a dosage, like pediatrics, especially if you're messing up dosages
Right.
because you have it memorized and that's the right thing, that can cause issues further down the road.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that one.
So I'm big on checking your protocols and your guidelines and stuff before you go in on something, if you have the opportunity. Sometimes it might just show up, but hopefully we have the resources like a pharmacist, or you're relying pretty heavily on your team members at that point to help you.
Do you have a what's your like go-to resource that you use?
So we have our own clinical guidelines that we utilize for the most part. And then I'm not opposed to phoning a friend. I know a couple
Nice.
of really smart people that I work with. And if I have critical care questions, I know that I can usually call them at any time without hesitation. And I do enjoy that I have that set of resources available to me.
Yeah, I mean it's been awesome like just working in this field because you really do meet a lot of very brilliant people and then then you stay connected like we have and just have this amazing smart community around you. It's really invaluable.
Yes, I agree. There's so many mistakes being made in medicine, and it's easy to, put your head down because of it. But if we make it a more welcoming environment for our new nurses, for our old nurses, for our new EMTs, our old EMTs, for everybody else, I think we'd have a lot less mistakes.
Yeah. I mean, I think doing what you're doing now is a great way of integrating all those people and bringing up a lot of these messages that need to get out there, including what you're just saying now.
Yeah, I agree. 100%. That's, trying to break the ice for people. I want the conversations to be had, and I think they need to be had, whether it's about PTSD, whether it's about how great our jobs are or how shitty our jobs can be sometimes. And then people making mistakes too, hopefully that can be avoided by having additional resources. And I do try to put up
Yeah.
resources for people for PTSD on my website. I do try to keep up. So if anybody has resources that they want to share, they're more than welcome to join the Facebook group page or contact me via email through my website and share those resources. And if I feel that they're good and valid resources, then I'll share them as well.
Love that.
I have started a little library of, critical care and EMS books myself that I will utilize too if I have questions, especially for being new to a teaching position. I want to learn and I want to make sure that I'm not making mistakes when I'm teaching. And right now I'm building, this episode will probably come out after, but I'm building an EMT basic refresher, and that has thrown me on my butt. Like, EMT basic shouldn't be too hard, but I am going through and I'm refreshing on a lot of stuff that's been really good for me personally, and I think it's super helpful to go back and read. And just, I think the biggest issue is complacency within our career fields.
Yeah, could see that for sure.
People just get too set where they're at and think they're, hot shit, and that's how mistakes are getting made too, is you
Yeah.
stop learning.
What's been the best part of teaching for you?
That's a good question. I don't know. I've been having just a lot of fun doing it. It's been very eye-opening because I'm doing a lot of teaching of the AHA cards, so I'm seeing a lot of people who have been in their fields for a very long time that have no clue.
Oh,
Just have
wow.
no clue. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy. But then you get other people that are super smart, and you're like, why are you in this position? Like, you should be higher up than you are. But it's really cool to
Right.
see. And I have a lot of fun interacting with all of the really cool characters that I am teaching.
The characters.
Yeah. Every class I'm learning something new, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of
That's
fun.
awesome.
Yeah.
I always I always envision myself in, you know, teaching in some capacity. I've always been drawn to that as well.
I didn't think that I would. I enjoyed teaching in the field. I love my job. I love being a paramedic, and I love now being a critical care paramedic. And I get really excited, and I want to share that, and I want other people to feel that way with me too. So I think sometimes I can come off as a little bit overbearing, but I took small steps by doing the AHA cards first, and I've progressed into NAEMT as well. And then now I'm pushing for that EMT basic refresher. And by next year, I am hoping to be teaching both paramedic and EMT refreshers. And I'm hoping, 5-year plan that I'll be CAPC accredited and I can be teaching a lot more.
That's awesome. Do you see yourself like fully segueing into that, or do you always want to be hands-on in some capacity?
I think I'll probably always want to be hands on, at least for a while longer. I've just been doing it for so long, going on 20 years in the
Yeah,
field as well. So I think that I'll be staying hands on for a while longer, as long as I can, at least in a part time or a PRN position. But I would like to progress into a teaching more full time position as well.
cool.
We'll see eventually, maybe. I'm enjoying what I'm doing now, so I'll keep doing what I'm doing until I can't. But I would like to keep teaching on the side as well, just in case. We've talked about it before too on the show. When paramedics get injured, there's not really a whole lot of movement,
Right.
so you see a lot of paramedics who get injured who just end up getting out of the field because they can't work in the field anymore, and that's
Wow. Yeah, that's so
definitely a
true.
reality. Yeah, I mean, in the ER, like if you break your leg, you can at least use something to wheel yourself around. you know
Yeah. You can be on phone call duty, which is a bear in itself, but at least you can do
Yeah,
something.
yeah, you can be on phone call duty or sitter duty, or
Sitter duty.
yeah, you can be in the monitor room or whatever, which is
Yeah.
nice. Yeah, there's just not a lot of movement for paramedics, but that's okay. We'll get there eventually. I'd like to see paramedics in more positions, like in the ER, or in the OR or wherever. And I think it is moving in that direction with the staffing shortages and everything else.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've always just thought paramedics are so undervalued and their role is so invaluable. And at my old hospital, we did not use paramedics to their full scope of practice. And I think that really hurt us. And I think that we could have functioned a lot better if they were able to do that and there were more positions for paramedics. And I just have never understood why like the hospital never saw the full value in that and never really pushed for that, you know?
Well, and I know they were trying, while I was there, they were trying to get the autonomy for paramedics to be higher than it was.
Yes. I feel like they're always like they've been trying for the last 10 years and it's like it never goes anywhere, you
I
know?
know, and I don't know what the holdup is, because if you look at the trauma hospital, paramedics have a lot of autonomy there, you
Yeah,
know,
as they
and
should.
they agreed they should. I don't see any difference in the scope in the ER between nurses and paramedics, but that's my personal opinion.
Yeah, that's very valid.
Yeah, and maybe eventually one day. I think a lot more hospitals could look out at that trauma hospital and see how they're utilizing their paramedics, and could probably gain a lot more useful hands if they were hiring and using paramedics themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Is that one of the reasons why decided to leave the place we used to work?
No, the ultimate decision, I actually enjoyed working there. Um, one, because I didn't have as much responsibility, right? So working in the tech capacity was kind of nice because I
Yeah.
didn't ever have any paperwork that I had to do or anything else. I drew labs and stocked rooms and stuff. It was really easy. But I did end up leaving there because I took the flight position and I needed more time to do and focus on flight. It wasn't an easy decision, but it was made either way.
Oh, it definitely sounds like the better decision for sure.
Yeah, no, the ER that we worked for, I actually really enjoyed the people there. It was a lot more laid back. People there were more like family than friends, which was nice, and that's hard to find, even in, most of the other ERs that I've seen. Some ERs just function a lot better together than others.
Yeah, I think honestly that's been the hardest part of not being in nursing right now is I miss that family community. I mean, at that place we would do barbecues every Sunday and we would have scooter club during break and we would do burpees on the lawn like when we
Oh,
had five
yes.
minutes like it was just that kind of environment and I think that's another way that I was able to cope with all of it as well is just having that family atmosphere that we worked with. I love that and I miss that a lot.
I agree. And I will tell you that is, like I said, that is hard to be found in a lot of ERs. That was probably one of the closer knit ones that I had ever seen.
Yeah.
What did they do on Fridays? Was it Cheese Fridays?
I feel like cheese is maybe like Thursdays or some random day, but then there was always something. There was an enchilada day, a cheese day, a barbecue day, and then I don't know, we'd have soup like green chili soup on Mondays. We always had some sort of theme going on. It was great. And then
Yeah.
of course, the EMS lounge with the PB&J sandwiches, clutch.
Yep. Yep. You could never get away from the PB and J's. And if you were lucky, they were in the freezer. The best way to eat them was straight out of the freezer.
Yep, I agree. That could be a hot topic, but I'm with you on that one.
Yeah. Yeah, it could be disagreed upon, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
So Anna, we're getting ready to close up, but I wanted to give you any opportunity if you wanted to shout anybody or anything else out. I know we talked a little bit about your business, but if there's anything else that you wanted to say, I wanted to give you the opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to thank you first and foremost for having me on here. It's been a lot of fun, and I just have so much respect for you for everything you're doing and getting these important messages out there, especially like you were saying about mental health and PTSD. And, we've all struggled with those at some point. And so I just have a lot of love and respect for you, Sam. And yeah, I mean, other than that, just come to Jamba. We'll treat you like family there, 20% off. Support the local business here.
Yeah, and it was really, really good when I went last week. That's probably going to be my new favorite smoothie place. So you'll be seeing me in there a lot more often.
Good to hear.
Yes, no, thank you so much, Anna. I appreciate you coming out. It's been a lot of fun. I can't even tell you guys how like blessed I am that people want to come on and just chat with me for an hour and a half and hang out and just have a good time.
Yeah, well, you're pretty awesome, so you make it easy.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. You're pretty awesome yourself, Anna. I hope you have a good day.
Thanks, you too.
Take care, Anna. It was good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. Before we wrap up, we have a few important announcements to share with you. Firstly, we're excited to announce the launch of our brand new 911 Nonsense Facebook group page. It's a community where everyone can go to connect, share ideas, discuss topics from the show, and get all of the most recent updates about the podcast. We'd love to have you join us and be part of the conversation. Next, we want to ask you to rate and review our podcast on your preferred platform. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach a wider audience. By rating and reviewing the show, you'll be supporting us in a big way and helping others discover 911 nonsense. If you enjoy what we do and would like to support the podcast even further, we have a few options available. You can visit samspursuit.com to find the links to our 911 Nonsense merch page and our recently released Noon gear page. Every contribution, no matter the size, goes a long way in helping us continue to better the podcast. We know that not everyone is comfortable being on the podcast, but we still want to hear your stories and experiences. If you have a compelling story and would like to share it to be read by me in a future episode, please reach out to us via email at 911nonsense@gmail.com or through our website's contact section. If you choose to be anonymous, we'll make sure to respect your privacy while sharing your story in a way that resonates with our audience. Thank you again for tuning in. We truly appreciate your support and look forward to bringing you more engaging content in the future. See you next week.